So, let's start with the E.I.T.H.R.
You're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with D-Cal.
And happy Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. D-Cal here at the E.I.T.H.R podcast, episode number 111 from the GNSHQ here in Northern California, man. Welcome to all the new listeners. Welcome to the repeat listeners. I do appreciate you taking your time and spending a little bit with me whenever you listen to this podcast. Social media, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, which is going to be the same handle, which is the E.I.T.H.R, T-H-E-E-I-T-H-R. You can also follow us wherever you get your podcasts, on iHeartRadio, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, if you have Apple, on Apple Podcasts or whatever it is. I don't have an iPhone. I'm Team Android. Or you can go ahead and download the Spreaker app. Spreaker. That way you can chat with me while I'm doing an episode, and as well you can also, keep in contact with me on social media, the Twitter and Instagram as well. So, also our TV channel, GNSETV.com. It's YouTube meets Netflix kind of thing. So it's a content where I pretty much control and have the first and final word what gets put on, so it feels good. So we do these things called inspirational, motivational, and I also give a shout out. So I like to start the podcast off this way on a good note. So the shout out I want to give to is a young lady in San Francisco. I put this post up about 5 hours ago. And this happened maybe within this past week. A 13-year-old Girl Scout in San Francisco named Danielle Lee. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. L-E-I. That's how you spell it. Danielle made the news for being the first Girl Scout to sell cookies outside a marijuana dispensary. She sold 117 boxes in 2 hours. Yo. Good on you, young lady. Straight up. 117 boxes in 2 hours? Yo, that's bananas. So, thinking outside the box, man, you can't go wrong with that. You can't go wrong with thinking outside the box. And for inspirational, motivational, this is one of those where it's most likely easier for some people to believe that it is. But those who know. Those who don't, they're going to figure it out. Money is a tool. It's not the goal. Right? It's a tool. And I know a lot of folks who don't have a lot of money per se. You see all these millionaires and people with all these problems, and you say, man, I wish I had their problems. I wish I had, his problem, her problem, or whatever. But a lot of these celebrities, if you will, they're trapped in their own success, right? If you are an athlete or an entertainer, you have to watch what it is that you say. It doesn't matter what you say, because someone's always going to be there to pick it apart. Not only that, there was a woman who I read online, she was a waitress, and someone left her, I believe it was a lottery ticket for gratuity. Well, this lottery ticket, if I remember the story correctly, this lottery ticket, it was a winning, it happened to be a winning lottery ticket. And problem was her coworkers felt that they deserved piece of that. And oh gosh, where was it? Man, I want to give it to you guys right. Money, it's a tool. It's just not. It's not the end all be all, man. And in a lot of cases, when you have money, more problems come out, and it's the problems that you can't really expect, and problems that you don't normally you don't want a piece of. So, gosh, I can't find it to save my life, but ultimately, she I know where it's at. It's on the Instagram. I want to make sure I give this to you guys. One quick second. Hold on just one moment. Oh, I can't find it. This is so annoying. Anyway, she won the lottery ticket and everybody kind of put their hands out and wanted a piece of what it was that she had, that she earned, that was given to her. And so it's one of those scenarios where you think the grass is greener on one side until you realize it really ain't. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where use it as a tool, people, to get what it is that you want, to get what it is that you're shooting for. But it's not the end result. On top of that, when you think this money is enough, you're going to run into people who have more. And then it typically becomes a sickness. There's only so much money you need. The rest of it is just for showing off. So keep that in mind. We're going to get into this issue that I put on how do you define, and we'll be right back with the E.I.T.H.R podcast. What up, people? It's D-Cal, and I'm the chairman of GNS ETV. I just want to share a little bit of the reason why I created GNSETV.com. I wanted to create a platform where I had the control, a place where an artist can get a fair shot without having to feel as if their quality wasn't good enough or because they didn't have a platform to show their craft. If you got something you want the people to see, or if you want to check it out yourself, support small business, GNSETV.com. It's a free subscription, costs you nothing but a couple seconds to create a profile, and you get to check out the VOD, videos on demand, or see what playlist I have streaming. GNSETV.com. GNS Collection.
This is Michaela Rivera from Cottage Grove, Oregon, and you're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with my friend D-Cal.
So, the premise of this episode of the podcast is to talk about how do we define certain things that we want, right? And I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about some of the issues. I've known her for about 15 years, and she was explaining to me like some of the issues she's having with her boyfriend, with her dude, and it's kind of like a cute little love triangle that she's, or what we would say nowadays, like entanglement. But the premise is she is no different than many people, man or woman, in today's world when it comes to relationship. And some of us get in relationships and we think that the relationship is going to fix itself. Or some of us get in relationships where we think that the other person's responsibility is to do whatever we want. Some people get in relationships and thinking they're still single. in my opinion, from my experience, one issue when it comes to relationships, and this has a lot to do with friendships, it has to do with, any type of relationship, whether it's your job, with your kids, classmates, whomever, right? Is how do you define happiness, right? And a lot of us are so caught up in this whirlwind of a life that we have to live, or I should say, in this whirlwind of a life that we've created for ourselves, that we don't take the time to know what it is that we want. Here's a prime example. And this is for anybody, if you're listening to this podcast with your kids, especially if they're a teenager, you have to understand, man, people who are not experiencing, or people who are not empathetic to other situations, into what people are going through, when you look at someone's circumstances, you don't look at it from walking in their footsteps. Many people, God, and myself was included with this until I learned, you look at it from the end result perspective. It's like when you go to explain a movie to somebody, right? And this movie's like 2.5 hours long. And someone says, how was the movie? Or you tell someone about the movie. You're trying to cram 2.5 hours of film in a 3-minute conversation. And most of the time, because they didn't see the movie, they're not really getting a full grasp of what's going on with the movie. So they're really just actively listening and waiting for the part that matches what they see in their mind, in their imagination, based on all the things that they can relate it to. So when you tell people your problems, you tell people some issues, especially if they're not there, they really can't, get full detail of the scenario. So when you're telling things to your kids, parents, their mindset is like, okay, I want to go to this party, right? I want to go to a party. I want to hang out with some friends. It's at so-and-so's house. I'll make sure to be back at this time. So parents, you start asking all the questions about, who else is going to be there? Where do they live? What kind of neighborhood is it? And, how are you going to get there? How are you going to get home? Is there going to be alcohol there? So on and so forth. The parents, older siblings. Well, the teenager, your child, for the most part, not all people think like this, but they're not grasping why you're asking the question. They just know, I'm going to a party with people that I know and some friends, right? But you're asking these questions because you've seen this movie before. You've seen the previews. You've seen the introduction. You've seen the casting. You heard the theme music in the beginning of the movie. You've seen the plot twists. You've seen all the dramas, and you've seen all the cliffhangers and all that other shit. And then when you get to the end of the movie, you see whether, it ended up this way, or it didn't end up the way you expected it to. But in most cases, the movie ends the way you think it's going to end. It just doesn't always go in a linear direction, because there's always this, remember this part over here you didn't think about? Oh, he's the killer? Yeah. Wow. Wait, he's coming to the rescue? Right. So it's not always the same path to the ending, but it's usually the same ending. So the kid thinks this is not how it's going to be. It's not like this. Those kind of people that you understand when explaining to them, there's a plethora of different scenarios that could happen that you haven't seen. So when your parents, teenagers, are trying to explain something to you, you're not going to get it. You're not going to grasp it. You're not going to see it, because you haven't seen the same film that they're talking about. You haven't seen all the scenes. You haven't seen all the characters. You haven't seen any of those things. Again, I'm using a movie analogy. So for those of you who are literal or don't have any imagination, that's obviously, clearly that's what I'm doing. So I said all that to kind of paint the picture of when having this conversation with my homegirl. Like I said, I've known her for 15 or so years, and she's having these issues. People have a hard time defining what it is that they want because they're so caught up in this whirlwind of life that they've created. And you don't take the time to think about what makes you happy. Now, in today's world, we make decisions, and for the most part, to make other people happy. And we kind of set our happiness on the back burner. And we do this when it comes for work, when it comes for family members, when it comes to your partner, again, even your children. You might not want to do something, but to make somebody else happy, you do it anyway because you want to do it. Now, I have family members who do shit like that too, but they also do things not because they want to see you happy, but some do things just so they can sit back and say, hey, I did this for you. So you owe me. Even if it's something that you do not want to do, they're like, well, I did this, so you should do that. What makes a person happy? Some of us do not know. We don't know what it is. Like, it took me a long time to understand what makes me happy with friendships. It took a long time to make me understand what makes me happy in relationships. It took a while for me to understand what makes me happy in life. So, it's not an easy ride, because sometimes there's signs that you think are meaning one thing and they mean the complete opposite. Or there's sometimes signs that you miss and you got to go back and try to relive it. And there's some lessons that you just have to feel, right? You just have to go. People tend to skip struggles because they think if I skip this part, I'll get straight to the end. Kind of like the example with the teenagers not wanting to listen to their parents. You think, well, if I don't do this, I won't have that ending, right? If I don't do this, the way my mom and dad are telling me about this party, if I don't drink this, if I don't do this, if I don't wear this, none of that's going to happen. It's not that simple, because like I said, there's different things that can happen that is so many different options that can go down. You can't list them all. And you don't want to scare people from having the experience, but you have to understand that they need to be at least aware of what's going on. So with my friend, and I know this probably sounds to some people like I'm all over the place. If you can see what's going on in my mind, I'm right on track with what I'm trying to say. But if you're listening, you're probably like, what the fuck is he? He's partying the movie, his friend, what? The parents with the movie analogy with their kid, it was kind of just explaining to you guys, explaining to your kid sometimes can go over their head, because they haven't seen what you saw just yet. Kids, your parents mean well, it's just you haven't experienced what they have. And everybody wants to sit back and say it's not what it used to be when you were my age. The fact of the matter is exactly how it used to be when they were your age. The difference is the characters. The clothing's different, the names, the faces are different, but the scenarios are still real. So I'm giving that example just to set the tone that you make decisions on you don't know what it is that you want until you experience it, until you go through it. And a lot of us make decisions pleasing other people than pleasing ourselves. So now that is out the way, I'm gonna get right back to my friend that I was talking about, which was in this predicament that she's in with her dude. And they've had a few conversations about making, what he expects, what she expects, what he doesn't like, what she doesn't like, what he is doing and hasn't done, and vice versa. And I tried to explain to her the same thing. Like, what makes you happy? Like, in a relationship, what is that you want? And she's like, I just want someone who's honest and this and all these other things. The almost like the bare, basic, normal, same old responses. And so I said to her, I said, okay, well, what is he not doing? And she goes into it and explains, how he talks to her, how he talks down to her, how he, doesn't necessarily, she feels, respects her position, her opinion, her viewpoint, her in general, right? And so I explained, after hearing hers, do you know what makes him happy? And she goes on to tell me that, he's in construction, and right now it's a slow time for construction, and so does he do anything for work while construction is slow? No, he doesn't. Okay. So, he has children from another relationship, and they are at his home while he is at her home, and she primarily takes care of the bills, right? She primarily takes care of everything. So, as she's telling me the story, I'm sitting here telling her, I was like, okay, I can personally, the problem is really simple, but fixing it isn't going to be easy, because if you guys don't really understand how communication works, communication is key, communication is everything. And I said this on one of my previous episodes, communication isn't everything. Communication is 1/3, right? Communication is the key. Comprehension is the lock, right? You can tell me all day what's going on, but if I don't comprehend what you're telling me, you're literally talking to a wall. So it's communication, it's comprehension. Okay. Now, the doorway, in order for you to walk, the path that you need to take, is compromise. She doesn't like it when I do this. Okay, so I either need to cut back on doing this, or I need to stop doing this. And when it comes to compromising, a lot of people don't know how to do this, because they take this as your partner being controlling, your partner being dominant, your partner telling you what to do. And so when she gives me this whole rundown about, his history, and I sit back and tell her, I say, okay, you know something? He's in a situation that I was once in myself. And she's like, really? I said, yes. I've been in a situation where you're under somebody else's roof, and you just want to sleep all day. You really don't want to do anything. You do the bare minimum of what they ask you to do, or ask of you to do. So that way you're not a burden on anyone, but also at the same time, you're not in anybody's way. You don't do more, you don't do less. That's pretty much what you do. Not to mention, you're his woman, but that's not his home, right? That's where he sleeps, but that's not his home. Yes, he has a house of his own, but you're not there, you're here. And it doesn't feel like home. I said, when I was living with somebody, we converted a 3-car garage into a 1-bedroom apartment. And I was going through a major struggle with my life at that point in time of, I've accomplished these things, but yet I have nothing to show for it. I'm at this situation right now where the family thing didn't work out the way I expected it to be, because of, a plethora of different reasons. And now I'm here, right? And there was a moment where I lost trust in this particular person. So now I'm sitting here thinking, damn, I'm with this woman who I don't believe to be faithful, and I'm living in this person's home that we built together, but I don't feel that it's mine. My business is not where I want it to be, and no one seems to have any faith despite me overcoming obstacles that I did. So you fall into a depression, and I said, that's probably where he's at. He's probably in a depression right now. You can't get mad at that. So when you have people who are in that situation, man, you have to learn how to talk to them. Because in many cases, talking at them is only going to seem like you're nagging and seem like you're bitching. This is what I'm saying to her. So I'm kind of just giving this this layout of the point of define. How do you define something? So when I asked her, how did y'all meet? And she told me how they met. And I said, okay, well, here's the thing. You have a history of dating men in this certain criteria, right? You have this you date men who either A, have someone else, or you date men who B, aren't they don't believe monogamous. They don't believe in monogamy. So it's almost like y'all are boyfriend, girlfriend, but and single at the same time. I said, why don't you just have an open relationship? But in open relationships is one of those things where it's competition, right? It's like, I want a girlfriend, but my girlfriend needs to know that I'm single, right? But your girlfriend also needs you to know that you're single. No, she can't be single. That's my woman, right? Or women nowadays. Now, my dude can't mess with nobody else. He's loyal to me, but ain't nobody gonna hold me down. I said, and that's your issue. Do you know what makes you happy? Define what makes you happy. And that's where, again, the basics of, a man who's honest, a man who's loyal, a man who, I said, so you're looking for a man to be all these things, yet at the same time, you're none of those things. On top of that, I don't think a good man is what you know. I said, have you ever had a good man before? And have you heard previous conversations on the podcast? I said this on the topic. I said, have you ever had a good man? She was like, yeah. Where are they? Well, because if they were a good man, you would still be with them. I had her define what a good man is. And she defined what a good man is. Now, all the men that you're with, are any of them good men? No. Okay. And I learned this from legendary motivational speaker Les Brown. One of the problems with people isn't that we aim high and miss, is that we aim low and hit. And she was like, what do you mean by that? I said, well, it's really simple. You take the ideal man of what you say you want, and you look for him. Okay. Now, do you have the qualities it takes to attract him? If your answer is no, okay. So then you start to drop your, lack of better terms, you drop in your standard. Your aim starts to go down, and it lowers, and it lowers, and it continues to lower until your aim is low enough to where your targets are all over the place, right? You go on quail hunting, you can't hit a bird, okay? So then your gun lowers from the sky to the clouds, to the air, to the top of the trees, to the branches, to the bark. Now you're down at the high grass, then you bring it down to the base of the tree, and look, from the base of the tree down to the grass, to the ground, to the roots, you see nothing but targets. When your aim was high, you had to be precise. You had to be on your point. You had to be, your game had to be it. But when you lower your target, you notice there's a grand selection of people to pick from. So it's the idea of a good versus being a good. And she's been with men who were controlling and possessive and insecure and violent, and abusive, more psychologically, mentally, emotionally, verbally, not so much physically. And I said, okay, well, what happens is you get so good at hitting targets that you don't raise your scope. Your aim stays the same, because an unknown hell, a known hell is more gratifying than an unknown heaven, because you're going to get something. Plus, this is something that you're comfortable with. It's a world you know. When they act this way, when they talk this way, when they walk this way, when they speak this way, you know it, you can read it, you can predict it, you understand it. But when your aim is risen and you look at something that's more precise, you don't know those patterns. That's an unknown heaven to you. You know it's better up there, but it's so foreign. Now, what makes you happy? Define your happiness. Well, and one of the things she told me, she doesn't like change. I said, right, because not changing is comfortable. Exactly. Right. And that's what I told her. You're in a comfort zone. And that's why, in my opinion, you tend to select the men that you select. Because it's a comfort in knowing these men ain't shit, but I know them. I can read them. When they're running game on me, I know it's game, and I can choose to believe it, to let it play out so I can bitch, gripe, and complain to them, or I can choose to call them out for it and let them know that I know that they're lying and go on from there, right? But when it's something new, it's something unproven, you're afraid to get taken advantage of. And it's happened with friendships as well, right? I have this thing where I say there's a difference between a best friend and a good friend or great friend. A best friend is always somebody else's fault. A best friend, you are right, they are wrong. A best friend is, girl, you want to key his car? I'll drive. Girl, you want to go over there? Here, I'll call him 3 ways so we can set him up. A best friend, your girl's giving you a problem? FTP, man, let's go out. Let's go look for some new ones, man. You know what I'm saying? Just call somebody over, man. I got a couple girls who come over, man. You know what I'm saying? We can go ahead and make that happen, man. That's a best friend. You get into a situation with somebody, your best friend is going to be right there whether you're wrong or right. And leave it at that. A good / great friend has no problem telling you when you're wrong as well as when you're right. That good or great friend will pull you to the side and say, I don't think we should be doing that. I don't think we should be here. I think we should go someplace else. I don't think we should be doing this over here. I don't think this. I don't think that. I don't think the other. A good, great friend would always hear your side of the story and say, now, by doing that, it's going to create the problem that existed. So maybe you shouldn't have made that comment. Maybe you should have just shut the fuck up. Maybe you shouldn't have said the last word. Maybe you shouldn't have slammed that door. Maybe you shouldn't have done this. A good friend, a great friend is going to tell you when you are not the one in the right. Because they're going to set you straight. You know, we always tell people, you know, keep it 100, you know, keep it solid. You always keep it 100, man. You always keep it real. You always keep it there. Everybody wants you to keep it real. Except for with them. Then that's when they want you to keep it fake. Then they want you to keep it 0 to 50. Right? It's that. But her and I had this conversation, and she was basically telling me that, you know, you're the only male friend that I have and trust. So anything you say, I'm not going to take it wrong. I'm not going to take it, you know, negatively. And I want to hear it because I don't want someone telling me what I'm doing right. I want someone to tell me, here's where you could have changed, or this is where you're wrong, or this is probably where you need to cut out. Because I'm not seeing it, and no one else is telling me. So when she told me what it was that made her happy, I said, okay. Now, are the people that you're dealing with, are they in a position to make you happy? No. Okay. Seems like we found a solution to some problems. What defines happy? Right? Majority of the time, as I said earlier, we make these decisions that have led up to our lives. And by the time we realize these decisions, we're so deep into commitment from these decisions or of these decisions, we can't go anywhere else. We're just stuck where we're at. And that's a huge problem. And then I build a resentment. And I explained that to her too. I said, listen, there's a pain of success and there's a pain of regret. Guess which one lasts longer? Guess which one hits harder? So if you want to be able to heal and get over and figure out what makes you happy and to consistently stay there, you might want to pick which one is going to last the least and sting bad for a short period of time, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of where we left it off at, was there. You know, in a nutshell, man. And it kind of just made me realize, like, a lot, again, it took me some time to figure out what makes me happy. And you guys have to understand, when it comes to making yourself happy, whether it's friendship, like I said, employment, whatever, there's a big difference between being happy and the idea of being happy. And in relationships, you know, I even told her this. I said, I don't think a good man is what you want because you never had one. I said, because you're going to get a good man who comes from a genuine place, who comes from a genuine perspective, but it looks like they're coming from a controlling, manipulative way of thinking. And I gave her the analogy of the person who works at the Federal Reserve, right? They give you authentic $100 bills, $50 bills, $20 bills, 10, 5s, and 1s. They give you authentic bills. So you know what it looks like, what it tastes like, well, not tastes like, but you know what it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, how it, you know, the weight, the texture, you know these things. And then you're given a counterfeit bill. Well, right away, after dealing with the authentic one, you recognize immediately the counterfeit. I said, well, if your life has been nothing but counterfeit, how would you know what's authentic? How would you know this? How would you recognize this? You wouldn't. Because if you've been given counterfeits the whole time, the authentics you would think look the same. So you would just look at the similarities and flags will go up. You won't understand that when he's saying not to do certain things, it isn't to control you. These things are being said not to do because of the consequences that it could lead to. Listen, if your partner asks you not to go someplace, it isn't because you're a good person, right? A good person. If your good man or your good woman, right, is asking you not to go someplace, it may not be because they want to be selfish and keep you home. It could be, I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the other people, right? I'm worried about somebody doing or saying something that's going to cause you to react and provoke you into doing something, right? Some people even say, when it comes to relationships and cheating, they say things like, I trust you, I just don't trust the other people, right? And a good partner can sit back and say, listen, I don't think it's the wise idea because of everything that's going to be around you to put you in a bad situation, right? So if you can't handle a partner telling you that, maybe there's some internal trauma that you got to deal with people in your past childhood or not, right? And when it comes to relationships, again, when it comes to reciprocating what it is that you want your partner to be, that falls back into the compromise. Because I think a lot of people in today's world, from my experience and from my observation, people think love and respect and loyalty is a one-way street. And that usually comes from an environment of do as I say, not as I do. And that translates into other people's lives. And I grew up in an era where it was a do as I say, not as I do. And if you give me back that same type of medicine, it's a sign of disrespect. It was almost like if someone is above you, whether it's a relative or a co-worker, supervisor, whomever, if they had a title or ranking that was above you, the moment you stood up for yourself, you were insubordinate. You're supposed to just take it and do it, and that's it, because I said so. And that's a different generation, right? This generation, they think they're doing the right things to get a right partner. They're doing the right things to get that type of partner, right? Whatever you're doing, that's exactly what you're doing to get that type of partner for the energy that you're putting out. So, put it this way. I saw a video where a woman was saying all guys want is pussy. That's all men want. Men just want sex. That's it. They want sex and be done and move on, and that's that and the other. And the gentleman stated a very profound fact. He said, as a man, I'm going to be interested in whatever it is that you're offering me. So you have to understand that if sex is what I'm after, and that's the only thing you show me, there's no other reason for me to look anything past that. Because basically, that's what you're showing me is on the table. So ultimately, if your looks is what you're showing, he's going to go after you based on your looks. If you offer no goal, no future, no ambition, no drive, no talent, no goals, no nothing, but you can twerk something serious and you look good and skin tight, making sexy, provocative, posy faces on the gram, that's what he's going after. Right? Now, if you show everything but those things, you're going to find yourself a different man. And I think fundamentally, women believe men should understand, we should understand these qualities that you offer, despite you showing this, that, and the third. Like, I can do the duck face, I can do the bent over pose, I can do the twerk video, I can wear the skimpy, but you should know there's more underneath. Okay. If you ever get inside the brain of a man, generally speaking, we're not like that. That ain't how we work. That's not how we operate. Right? Once a man sees what he wants, and that's what he's attracted to, that's what he's aiming for. Now, the flip side of that is women who do all those scandalous, skimpy things. And I understand a lot of time it's for fun, right? Kind of just having a good time. I get it. But when you do all those things and you do not get the attention that you sought out to crave for, then all of a sudden, men ain't shit. You had a bad day. You don't know what the problem is with these dudes. All these men got an attitude. Something's wrong with these people. Ain't no one looking at me. Don't they know how fly I look? It's almost like the signal is, I want what I want at the moment I want it. And if it's not that, it's wrong. Our brains don't act like that. They don't. It's not that. Now, every example that I gave, you can use it for the opposite, right? It's not just specifically for that particular gender example. So when I say, a man looking for a woman, clearly the sharp people understand, oh, we have to go for a woman looking for a man, or a man looking for a man, or a woman looking for a woman, or whatever you identify as. The sharp people got it. Everyone else got offended and upset. But if you know how I speak, and you listen to this podcast long enough, you understand what I'm talking about, right? But what makes you happy? Generally speaking, I have to say that a couple of times because the world we live in right now, boy, listen, if you don't say it, if they didn't catch it the first time, they're going to correct you everywhere. But women look for comfort and protection. Men look for peace and respect. Right? A woman shall be whatever it is you request of her to be, as long as you bring her comfort, and trust is obviously in there too, and she feels as if you will protect her in that home, then whatever you request of her, she shall fulfill. A man, out of everything that we go through in our day to day at work, business, whatever, you are the calm in the middle of the storm outside of these walls. And all a man wants to do is be respected as such. Here's the reason why people cheat. People cheat because they're not satisfied. That's the punchline. That's it. That's the tweet. People cheat because they're not satisfied. Right? A woman, if she's not getting the comfort or protection, that has no trust or attention, she will seek it or be drawn to it when it seeks her. If a man is not being respected and has no peace, he will find that place of peace. He shall go where he is respected. What defines comfort? What defines protection? What defines attention? What defines trust? Right? What defines those things to you? The way I see it versus the way how women perceive it. It's all subjective, ladies and gentlemen. But how do you define those things? See, as a man, I define peace as this. When I'm around you, I don't care what's going on. I want to hear about your day. Tell me more about it. What else went down? What? That's crazy. What else happened? Okay, tell me more. I'm engaged. Not actively listening, but literally paying attention. Peace. When I'm with you, when I'm around. You see happiness on my face. I'm smiling. I'm calm. It's clear to see when like I'm a person who I'll show you my reaction. I'll show you my emotion. Right? When I'm respected, I go out of my way to where she has to do nothing around me. And it's not like servitude, but it's more like you won't have to ask me to do anything around the house. Whether we live together, whether you're at my place or I'm at your place, I'll see something that needs to be done and I'll take care of it. Because we will reciprocate what we are given. Right? If I see, listen, some people are more observant than others. So you can't hold all people to the same standard. But I'm the kind of individual, if I come over and there's dishes in the sink, I got you, don't trip. You had a day. Listen, we're at your place. Pull up a chair. Tell me about your day while here's your drink, or whatever you got to do. I'll knock these dishes out and tell me about your day. Right? Trash is overflowing. I got the trash. Don't trip. Right? I'll do these things. Why not? As a man, you respect me accordingly. Why not give respect back? Right? Is when it comes to compromise, it's a give and take. When it comes to comprehension, it's a give and take. Because everyone knows I'm an overthinker. But because I'm an overthinker, I will also overanalyze, but I pay attention to the details of certain things. It's weird. I'm old school with it. I'll pay attention to how you sit, how you lay, how you position yourself, your facial expressions. Do you tilt your head a certain way? There's some guys out there, man, like when it's especially us emotionally standoffish dudes, in my opinion, we tend to be the most emotional gratifying, most emotional can't think of the word I'm looking for. We want to satisfy our partner. It's just we don't necessarily display it because we understand that there's so many people out there who will take that emotion and for weakness and exploit that. So we don't. We keep everything internalized and we process it internally, but we show it. But once we get that peace and we come home and it's a, oh, I miss you all day, versus a, oh, this bitch talking again. Like it's different, right? We want to escape noise to go to peace, which is the reason why men play video games, which is the reason why men listen to music, which is the reason why men go to the gym, because sometimes that's our peace. And you might see it as, why is he always playing that game? Why is he always at the gym with his guys? Why you see him enjoying himself amongst everyone else but you? It's probably because those people give him a respect he's not getting at home. Right? Listen, I don't play any of the Call of Duty games I haven't played Madden in about 6, 7, 8, 10 years, somewhere around that. But those who knew me when I played Madden, we had a certain respect for one another. They knew how good I was. We would trash talk back and forth. But to a woman, you're just playing a video game. They don't comprehend it, right? And fellas, I'm going to think it's the same when women watch certain TV shows, or when if there's a certain type of attention they get, right? It makes them feel like they're the baddest baddie on the planet, right? Probably not the attention they get from you. And it's a vicious circle, man, because if you don't give her the attention, she might not give you no peace. Hey, if you don't give him any peace, he might not give you any attention. Listen, she may not feel protection around you. She might feel danger. Okay, well, if you don't respect me enough, I ain't gonna protect you. Whoa, you don't protect me, I ain't gonna respect you. It's chicken, egg, which came first? Bananas. It really is. What defines making you happy? Do you know what it is? Have you asked yourself that? Now, the next thing is, just like my homegirl said, she doesn't like change. Doing something different scares the shit out of her. I even told her, one of the things that he would do is he would nitpick and just gripe at her all damn day, because why? She wouldn't quit her job and go find a new one because they didn't appreciate who she was. I said, by nature, men, we're fixers. We're fixers. We are. We see a problem, we want to fix it, we want to get rid of it, we need to address it. That's in our nature, generally speaking. Not all men are fixers, but for the most part, we are. He's trying to fix the problem by telling you, okay, well, if they don't like you here, go there. I explained to her the problem is he means well. He really does. He just doesn't understand what empathy is. You're not looking to solve the problem. What you're looking for is an empathetic shoulder you can just vent to. You just want to vent. You just want him to understand. You just want him to see. This is on my shoulders, and I'm getting this off my chest. Okay, go ahead, babe. Listen. It's just like screaming at the top of your lungs or the top of the mountain just to get it out. You're not looking for somebody to fix it. I just want you to sit back and let me just get this out real quick. But it took me years to understand that's what some women in general want. They love what they do. They just don't love necessarily what they gotta go through for it. Same thing with relationships. They love their man. They just don't love all the bullshit he puts her through. Right? So, but change is something that she is, and a lot of us are. And when you get to this side of 30, change is extremely difficult to do because it's comfort, it's routine. You know what to expect. Which is, like I said in the beginning, with every other relationship, that's kind of where you can also get complacent. It's comfort. You can get lackadaisical in comfort. You can lose your passion when you're comfortable because it just becomes, you lose your excitement. You can lose your ambition when you're comfortable. And that's why I explained to her, you need to have a sit down with him and understand something too when it comes to guys. We are dominant. We are all-knowing. We are all-powerful. We are Zeus in flesh. Yet at the same time, our frail, fragile-ass egos can crack if you yell at us too loud or say the wrong thing. Right? You have to approach him like this, and I told you earlier, I was in a similar situation as him, so I had to break it down to this way. Like, listen, here's what I would have wanted her. Now, it wasn't her responsibility to tell me, but when I was living with this particular woman, I said, this is what I wish she would have said to me. Listen, I don't know what's going on, but I know that there's something wrong. What is it that I can help you with? Because I don't want to see you like this. The man in whom I'm with is in pain, and it's clear to see. As a mother, my nature is to nurture, just like yours is to fix. So we are on the same wavelength. How can I nurture you back to being the man I need you to be? As a man, to hear a woman say that, you almost feel, I need to protect this woman because she's looking to nurture me. Right? You kind of see how that goes hand in hand. What defines making you happy? What defines protection? What defines nurture? What defines peace? What defines attention? Right? What defines comfort? What defines all these things? Right? You have to define this for yourself. And I almost guarantee when you define what makes you happy, you're going to start seeing people differently. Gosh, you're going to start seeing them differently. Now, the difference is the communication, what defines you, okay? The comprehension, understanding what defines you, or what defines your, fill in the blank, and the compromise. Okay, this is what I got to do to make it happen. This is what I got to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again. How can I bring myself peace? How can I respect myself enough? How can I give myself this comfort? How can I protect me? What do I need to do to protect me? Right? It's crucial. Fellas, again, when it comes to your woman or your partner, our words are strong. Our words are powerful. Our words almost set law and are cast in stone. So we need to be cautious with these words, because the tongue is sharper than any sword. So next time your woman comes and just in your ear, listen, I understand that you have a problem with me. I clearly have done something that isn't making you happy or isn't satisfying you. Okay? Let me know what it is that I'm doing that you do not find pleasure in. What is it that I'm doing that is not pleasing you? What is it that I'm doing that's making you feel a certain type of way against me? Because I don't want to see you like this. Something of that nature will make your woman look at you and say, well, and now here comes the communication. Okay, follow that with some comprehension, then go ahead with the compromise. But when you get into a battle, into an argument, into a struggle of I told you so's, or into a debate of, well, this is your fault, no, it's yours, then we're going to get into a stalemate. And you might as well have not talked to each other, because all you did was piss each other off even more. But if you could at least make your partner feel comfortable enough for her to share, then it's okay. What do you think would be a good idea for me to do to change? What do you think is a good idea? What do you think would probably happen? What would you recommend? Anything of those nature. Like, you can pick anything like that. What would you recommend I do? Or, okay, how would you see me fixing this? Or how would you fix this? What's the best option you think? Get her opinion. Well, I think, and she's going to give you what she thinks. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to do my best. You have my word as a man. Or you could say, you have my word as your man. I'm going to give you best effort I can to correct A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z, whatever it is. Okay? I just need you to do me a favor. If you see me slipping, if you see me changing, let me know. Is that fair? Then she feels like, okay. First of all, you're going to fuck her whole head up, because most likely she was expecting a confrontation, which comes from the root of toxic relationships or toxic environment. And so, but because you made that effort and you asked her to keep you accountable, she's going to do that, but she's also going to be impressed with the fact that you gave the effort to fix what she felt was broken. See how she allowed you to be the fixer? Now, in many cases, a lot of people cannot have these kind of relationships. They can't have these kind of conversations in relationships, because the moment one person starts to tell the partner, these are the issues I'm having with you, these are the problems that I'm feeling, here's where I'm having then they want to throw back, oh yeah, well, I don't like it when you do this. We're not getting into a I don't like it when you do this debate. We're not doing a laundry list of I don't like it when you do this. What we're trying to have here is a conversation of me sharing with you of why I don't like when you do this. So it's kind of one of those things where, we gotta stop nitpicking at each other. And I feel a lot of folks don't know how to communicate, because if you really think about it, that's not the environment that they come from. In some cases, man, when you're vulnerable and trying to compromise and trying to do all these things, you're viewed as weak. You're viewed as soft, right? And so you have to, let me take that back. You don't have to, but I sincerely encourage you with your partner or just with yourself, right? Is to, what are things that bother you? What are some logical, reasonable ways to rectify that issue? But it all stems from, how do you define fill in the blank? Like my homegirl, like I said at the beginning of this episode, man, she didn't have a clear-cut definition of what makes her happy. She doesn't know what makes her happy. Now, understand there's a difference between, again, being happy and the idea of being happy. And I think a lot of people base relationships on ideas of, right? And when everything that's being shown in front of people and being plastered and posted, it's really simple for someone to say, oh, I want my relationship to be like that. Well, you don't know what that did to get to that level. You don't know what it took for that to be where that is. You have no clue, right? You're completely 100% unaware of what that had to work through, had to work on, had to become to make that happen. Is it possible? Absolutely. However, do you want that? Or do you want the idea of that? So many people want to have a successful business. They want to live, right, in the Oakland Hills, Berkeley Hills, right? They want to live in Beverly Hills. They want to live on top of the hill. But they don't want to move out of their apartment, out of their parents' home. They don't want to move out of their neighborhood. See, they don't want that relationship. They don't want that house in the hill. Hell, they don't even want the figure they see in the magazine or what's being posted on their Instagram. They want the idea of it. That's what drives people. It's not the reality of it, it's the fantasy of it. Well, if the fantasy is all you care about, then your reality is always going to fall short of that. But if the reality is what you want to be, you're going to have to put in the work that it takes. Now, the work that it takes for you may be different than the work it took for me. It might be less. It could be more. But the bottom line is, once you find out what it is that you want, as I said this before, reevaluate your circle. Reevaluate the people that you hang out with, right? Because a common future comment, pass. One is going to be where you headed. One is going to be where you stay. 916-282-9372. Didn't put the number at the beginning of the episode, but that's the number where you can call and text here at the E.I.TH.R podcast. Follow us, the E.I.TH.R, T-H-E, E.I.T.H.R on social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram. But greatly appreciate if you guys followed, said hi on the Instagram or the Twitter. GNSETV.com. Free subscription. Sign up for it. Appreciate it. We just changed the playlist on there. I'm going to be working on for the artists very, very soon. And we got a couple of projects we're going to be bringing out to GNSETV within the next 60 days. So it's your boy DK at the E.I.TH.R podcast. Appreciate y'all. Love you much. Talk to you next time.